Okay, hello everyone and welcome back to World of Tanks Blitz, and as is pretty much tradition now each year, I will be just saying one of my favourite tanks at each tier at the end of each year, just to see if my opinion on them has changed with new balances, new patches, and of course new vehicles get added to my garage. So we'll be starting off here with tier 1, so the new tier 1s, and honestly, it's a bit of a difficult choice with these tanks because they're all vastly different to how they used to be up until very recently. So I am probably going to have to say the Hargo is my favourite tank out of my collection here, and that is because as I die there. And that's because it's a pretty small tank, it's fairly nimble. I've got it in the historical, if you want to call it that, the historical setup. So it's got the 37mm. It's got the turret with the machine gun sticking out the side. And yeah, it's a pretty decent tank. It's got a decent little gun on it. This being not the improved gun. This is the 37mm gun there, which has got slightly less average pen and worse dispersion. No, better dispersion and a better aim time, but for a slightly lower rate of fire. But in all respects, it's pretty much even a slightly better gun than the upgraded 37. So yeah, it's a pretty good gun, decent penetration, decent average damage, rate of fire isn't too bad. The tank itself is pretty fun, pretty small. It looks quite good even without this anime camo, but with the anime camo, of course ignoring the anime badge on the side of the turret, it is a very nice camo on it, I have to say. And yeah, overall it's just a pretty fun tank to play, with decent all-round stats. Obviously the armor's not quite good as you'd want it, but overall for a tier 1 tank, very solid, very good tank. For tier 2, this is where most of the changes have happened, just to autoloaders and stuff, with many vehicles actually becoming obsolete. For example, the T7 combat car, the T1E6, the Light 6, these have all pretty much become obsolete. So I think at this tier I'm going to have to go with the good old favourite, the Micro Mouse, just because it is still such a good tank. If we have a look, it still has its 40 millimeters of armor all round, still has 375 HP, still not particularly mobile, but the gun still pretty decent. I mean, 41 average pen isn't as much as you'd like, but decent rate of fire, alright average pen, very good accuracy. It's not that great aim time, to be honest, but even so, still very strong tank, impervious to a lot of stuff. And yeah, it's still a very good tank, very solid tank at tier 2. Plus, it's not that common to see, which is nice. It is still, you know, really a collector's tank. For other honourable mentions, I'd have to say the Tetrarch is also a very good tank, very good gun. Mobile, light, fast, very good 2-pounder. Also, the Panzer is also quite a fun tank to play with that, what is it, 47mm gun on it. Nope, 50mm gun on it. Sorry, the 50mm Pak 38 L60. It's a very good gun. The tank itself, not so great, but the gun itself, very decent, very good anti-tank gun at tier 2. But I would have to say that for tier 2, the Panzer 38H, the Micro Mouse, has got to take it. For tier 3, again, lots of changes have happened at this tier. A lot of tanks have changed to become collector's tanks. But I would have to say, for the best tank, definitely gonna have to be still the Su-76I. This thing is still a monster at tier 3. 60mm of frontal hull armor. Very good, solid gun that it has on there. 76mm, obviously, as you can guess. Yeah, 76 with a 86 average pen with AP, very good 120 average damage as well. You can 2 or 3 shot tanks at this tier. Dispersion and accuracy not that great, the same with rate of fire. However, based off of a Panzer III chassis, means that it is a medium tank. It's just a fixed gun medium tank, which makes it rather fast It has got a good traverse speed, able to keep up with tanks that are trying to circle strafe it, whilst also having a very good gun, able to consistently deal with enemies as they come. And yeah, it's just overall a very good tank. A very good tank at this tier, and a very good tank destroyer as well. Able to, yeah, pretty much 2-shot or 3-shot any tank at its tier, which is a very good, or indeed the tiers below it, which makes it a very good tank to have. And yeah, it's just a very fun tank to play. Now, as for tier 4, this is where the rebalance has not as much affected the tanks at this tier. And there are a lot of very good tanks. I should really have had a thought about this before I just jumped on and did this, but there are a lot of good tanks at this tier, a lot of fun tanks as well at this tier. For example, the Panzer B2 is a pretty fun tank, the Matilda is of course very good, it's a Matilda, the Sentinel as well, not too bad, the A32 as well, very good medium tank in my opinion, well, not very good, but a rather fun medium tank to play. And of course the AMX 40 for just being the beast that it is, that you can now no longer get it because yeah, because of the rebalance, you can no longer get this tank. And I mean, I have to think really about this tier, because there are a lot of good tanks at this tier. And I would have to say it's probably a toss-up between the AMX 40 and the Matilda, because in some ways they're very similar. The Matilda is a very well-armoured tank. It's got a very good 2-pounder gun on it. Not a particularly good, not a very good average damage due to it only being a 40mm. However, very good penetration. What is it? 121. No, okay, only 89 apparently for the Little John adapter 2-pounder. However, very good penetration either way. So yeah, very good pen, very good armor for its tier. It's rather slow, but it's got decent enough health pool. And yeah, lots of tanks will have problems trying to take this thing out unless they hit it at a very good angle, or if they're very close. And the very good rate of fire of this tank means that low damage adds up very quickly. As for the AMX 40, it's a similar sort of story. Very good armor, very well sloped, and very well rounded. As you can see, it's got 70 frontal hull, 80 frontal turret with 60 size of mirror on the turret, plus all of that is sloped, which makes it a very tricky thing to take out. You sort of have to either hit it in the lower section here, where the transmission is, or you've got to hit it where the driver's viewports are. And that makes it a very difficult thing to take out, plus when you angle it and armour it and waggle it around, makes it very difficult to deal with. The gun itself, not particularly great. Only 78 average penetration. You can barely get through the front of a Matilda, which has got 75 frontal hull, which means that it is a bit of a tricky thing to play. But against other AMX 40s, unless they know what they're doing, so long as you aim for the lower glacis or you try and hit this area, you'll be fine. You'll be able to kill them without using heat, and they won't know what to do with you, which makes it a very strong tank to play. And it's also a pretty fun tank to play as well, and also it doesn't look that bad, to be fair. You know, with something like this on it, it's a very nice looking tank, very nice and well rounded. Yeah, which just makes it very nice to look at. So that is tier 4. Then we come to tier 5, and tier 5 is where the rebalance hasn't affected it, so this is where the competition starts getting stiffer. And as you can see, I've got a swathe of tanks from which to choose from, with some very good things like the 5/4 here, which is not nearly as uncommon as I would like it to be. You got the Chino Kai, is also pretty fun. I mean, the Churchill I is of course a very good tank. Then we got, for example, the KV-222, which is also just a KV-3 at tier 5 with a KV-1 turret and gun on it. That's what you've got here. The Hydro, all sorts of things here, very good. But I would have to say, for my favourite tank, at this tier, very difficult, but I think actually it might be the Chino Kai. Before I've said the 5/4, back when the 5/4 was rare, it was a very fun tank to play, but now I've just sort of, it's a bit sad really, because everyone can get it. I believe everyone can still get it. I think, yeah, there it is, up here. in the premium shop, you can get it for, what, 1,000, 2,000 gold, which means that anyone can sort of get this tank, and it's a very good tank, very good at ramming. It's got a Panzer hull. It was very fun to play when it was first out, but now I think probably the Chinukai has taken over. Honourable mentions is of course the KV-220 because of that frontal hull armour. What is that, 100? Yep, 100 front, 100 side, 80 rear. Very strong hull at this tier. Very good, just a very good tank to side scrape in, or indeed front scrape in, because it's just so strong. I mean, the Churchill, it's a Churchill. I mean, the gun is very good on it, but for me, the Chinukai is probably the best tank at this tier for me, out of the tanks that I have, because it's got not particularly great hull armour. If we have a look, 50 front, 25 side, 20 rear, 75 frontal turret, but it can sometimes bounce things if it hits it on this upper glacis here, which means that you can occasionally get some lucky ricochets, but overall it's a fairly mobile tank. If you have a look, it only weighs 21 tons, it's got a 39 kilometers per hour top speed. I mean, 45.5 degrees per second hull traverse, 32 degrees per second turret traverse, not too bad at all. Plus the gun is very good, it's a very good tank gun, as I go into the stats again. Yeah, very good tank gun, 8.5 rounds per minute, 124 average pen, 155 with the other AP, 160 average damage, 0.35 dispersion, 3.4 second aim time. It's a very good solid medium tank gun, able to take things out frontally at a distance. Plus the tank itself, pretty good to roll around in. It's rather mobile, you can wolf pack with other mediums if you want to, and yeah, it's just overall a fairly solid medium tank. Obviously armour's not up to scratch, but if you keep moving, keep yourself dancing around heavy tanks, and you put that gun to work, which is a very good tank gun, then yeah, you'll be pretty fine. And yeah, it's just a overall very good medium tank at tier 5. So then we come to tier 6, and tier 6 I've got possibly the most tanks in my garage, and as you can see, I've got a rather large swathe of them, ranging from mediums, heavies, and lights and tank destroyers. At least I think I've got a light tank in here somewhere. I thought I might have done. Apparently not. I'm missing a light tank at tier 6. But yeah, so at tier 6 you've got, of course, a lot of the fan favourites. You've got the KV-2, you've of course got the TOG, the Churchill, you've got the Anime Tiger, you've got, you know, the Victory and these 3 tanks down here, which are all very good tanks. And then you've got the Mark 6 Churchill, you've got the Sam Jackson, this thing, which I only got for the football camo. I don't actually know, I think I've played it once or twice. Of course got the Firefly. And then of course the Churchill gun carrier, and of course the Churchill gun carrier is my favourite tank at this tier. No, it isn't, I'm joking. Probably I would have to say that my favourite tanks at this tier have got to be a choice between the Mark 6 and Mark 7 Churchill, because there's not really that much difference in them, and I would have to say, if anything, I am a heavy tank player, if I was forced to take a side on some made up role, I don't know, war. But yeah, I would have to say that I am definitely a heavy tank player, as I of course favour heavy tanks. But the Anime Tiger is a good tank at this tier. I mean, the armour is very good, the main gun is also very good as well, being an 88 with 145 average pen, 220 average damage. Very solid tank, because of course, you know, it's just a Tiger 1 tier lower with some slight debuffs on it. But the Churchills, I've got to say, I think I might prefer the Churchills over the Anime Tiger, because, I mean, they both have got similar sort of loadout. They've both got 176 at the front of the hull. They've both got 152 at the front of the turret. Yeah, oh no, this has actually got less frontal hull, because this thing's got a slight band around here of armour. But yeah, they're both sort of very similar sort of tanks. They're both slow. I'd want to get that out of the way. Obviously, they're both slow. They're both Churchills. However, they are very good tanks either way, because they have got very strong armor profiles. Being a Churchill, this thing's got a bit of a weird gun mantlet. As you can see, it's a very strange cutout compared to the very nice indent for the Churchill Mark 7. However, they've both got very good hull and turret armor. 152 solid, 150 armor at this tier, very good. Lots of medium tanks will struggle against that from the front, so you're pretty impervious to a lot of stuff at this tier. Side scraping as well, they can be used to side scrape. I mean, the size of the turret, the size of the hull are only 76 for both of them. Hull armor 95 at the side, so 95 at the side for the Churchill 7 makes it a very good side scraper as well, because you can pretty much bounce shots off of there. Plus the guns, they may be low damage, they're only 75mm, however they're rather rapid fire. 75 mils. This has got an 11.3 rate of fire with 152 average pen, 160 average damage, whereas the Mark 6. Mark 7 rather has got this thing, 77 Mark 2 with 155 average pen and 160 average damage, which means that whilst they're not particularly punchy guns, they're very much medium tank guns, but that damage does add up, and when you get yourself into a good position, a good Churchill can hold that position for a while, just from its armor, its large health pool, and also its gun just constantly whittling down the enemy team. And also they're not too bad at firing on the move as well. I find the guns, you can easily sort of pop out, take a shot, and it'll most likely hit, if not penetrate. But yeah, I mean the Mark 6 Churchill, that's got this sort of armor band at the front, which just catches some people out because they'll just sort of aim at this area and then they'll find it doesn't go through because it's got this band here around the hull machine gun. But yeah, they're both very good tanks. They both also feel like tanks because, you know, they're both very big and bulky, and they're just great. But yeah, so that would be my favourite tanks at this tier. Obviously, the KV2 is just a KV2. I mean, you know, we all know that everyone loves playing the KV2 because, well, that. But yeah, honourable mention is of course the Kuro, and you know, let's throw the Churchill gun carrier in there for giggles as well. But yeah, I'd have to say that the two Churchills at tier 6 have got to be my favourite tanks. And now we come to probably the stiffest competition, which is the tier 7 and tier 8 tanks. Because there are a lot of tanks at this tier that I like. A lot of these tanks are very good. For just starting as a rundown, the T28 HTC, I do enjoy playing this tank. It's a very good tank if you get it into a good position. It's got a very good gun arc, very good gun. The armor as well, absolutely great. Yeah, it's a very good tank. And then of course you've got the Tankenstein constantly getting buffs. Yeah, just getting buff after buff after buff, which is very nice to see, because when this thing first came out it was not very good at all, but it was great fun. Of course, we got the new kid on the block, the Gravedigger. I mean, this thing is just a beast with that gun. That gun is absolutely great, plus the armor. It's a very good tank, if very large compared to, you know, the mutant. And then of course we've got one of the mutants themselves, the M6A2E1, which is also a very good tank. Got the old favourite, the Tiger. You got the Predator. Predator is a very good tank. The Blaze as well, you could say, at a stretch. And then of course you've got the good old Helsing, the first OP Halloween tank, along with the Dracula. And that's what makes this thing. That's what makes this competition so difficult at these tiers, because there are just such a lot of good tanks that are very good tanks to play. However, I would have to say I've been leaning more towards the Tankenstein. And this may surprise a lot of people, because I did say about how good this tank is. This tank is very good, and also I do love me the Tiger. As you can see, I've enriched it. I've got the Gamescom skin. I've got all of the unlocks for it. So I've got, you know, the ladder attachment onto the side of it. And yeah, that will of course surprise a lot of people, because the Predator as well is also very good, and you know, I do love my Tiger, and the Gravedigger is of course the new kid on the block that everyone's going on about. However, sometimes the old ones are the best, and of course the Tankenstein has been around a lot. The Tankenstein was, I think, is the first ever Halloween tank that we got, and I got it on that first Halloween. Got it just in time because of how the how the system worked to unlock it, but I did actually unlock the Tankenstein, and I've got a review of the Tankenstein. In fact, I think I've done a re-review of the Tankenstein since then, but even since then, the Tankenstein has still been receiving buffs. And that's what makes it such a good tank, because it a while back now did receive a large buff to its armor and its mobility, and that made it a lot more fun to play. Not only that, recently it got a buff to that gun mantlet on this particular gun, which is the gun that I use, the big old 130 Russian gun. And I use this gun because it's so completely crazy. But yeah, so it's just a Tiger P hull with Tiger P armor, with 200 at the front, including the cheeks. They buffed the cheeks, so that this now counts as frontal armor, not side armor, which is what it used to be. This used to be 80mm thick, and that used to be the big weakness for the Tiger P, which is why not many people played the Tiger P over the Tiger. And also one of the many reasons why people probably wouldn't get the Tankenstein, because this used to be 80, but now these cheeks are 200mm thick, the same as the rest of the front of the tank, bar the lower glacis. It's got a decent profile for side scraping. This is 80mm thick side armor, and it can be used for side scraping, especially if people try and hit here, because it will bounce off. So the armor profile, pretty solid. The turret, 150 at the front, 150 at the gun mantlet as well. The gun mantlet used to be the weakness on this tank when you're using the 130, because you also have the choice of an American 105, which gets the big old 105, T29 frontal gun mantlet, whereas this thing doesn't. It just gets sort of this strip of metal. And this used to not be armor at all. You used to be able to aim right for the gun and it would go through and do damage. Not anymore. This is now also 150. So the entire front of the turret is now 150. This thing is also pretty difficult to hit. I think it's still a weak spot. I think it's the only frontal weak spot. But this tank is also pretty tall, which means good luck trying to hit that weak spot. The gun itself also very strong. Very good gun. It's the same gun as you get on the box tank, the SG-100Y. It is the good old 130mm gun, B13S2, with 196 average pen on its AP, 171 on its premium AP, 65 on its high explosive, 460 for standard AP, 530 with premium AP, and 600 with HE. 0.37 dispersion, 5.5 second aim time, 3.5 rounds per minute. And this thing is capable nuking at least a third of your hit points off if it's using premium armor piercing. And rolling around with premium armor piercing loaded is very fun. Obviously, don't use it on tanks that have got less than about 400 HP, because you'll just waste it when you could be using a standard AP. However, nuking up to half of someone's HP with a premium shell is very fun. Of course, it eats into your costs. However, even so, this tank is just a monster on the battlefield. It looks like a monster with flames coming out the back. It's got a grenade and cross bolts on the back of the turret. It's got a machine gun here, a machine gun there. It's got sights and a pumpkin on it, and it's all very crazy. And it is a monster. People probably do fear the Tankenstein rolling up to them, just because it's such a difficult beast to kill if you don't have the right equipment or the right tools necessary in order to take it down, because the armor is very strong. The gun itself is fear-inducing into anyone, just because of the amount of damage it can put out. Of course, it has a 16 or 17 second reload, but that doesn't matter when you lost half your HP. Going up against this, no one will be in a hurry to pop their head out in case this thing's actually reloaded. So yeah, that's what makes this tank such a good thing to play, and such a good thing at this tier. Of course, the Gravedigger we all know about, gone over that recently. Of course, the Tiger, well, it's a Tiger, very good gun, rapid rate of fire, pretty mobile, pretty fun. This thing, of course, the gun arc, the gun itself, the armor, it's all very good, but I think overall the Tankenstein has just got to take it. Now we come to the other hardest category, which is Tier 8 tanks, and actually I might have mistaken myself when I said that Tier 7 or Tier 6 has got the most tanks in this collection, because looking at all my Tier 8s now, that's quite a lot of them. And of course, again, very strong competitors in this. KpfPz, I haven't played this thing in ages, but I do indeed have the KpfPz, and the KpfPz is very good. with monster with a monster frontal armor enabled to at 100 tons able to ram pretty much anything and come out unscathed. Of course, you've got the also loading IS-3. You've of course got the mutant, the other mutant, the experimental, which has got the big old 120. Of course, you got the T-95E2, this thing, and then of course running up to that the Chieftain T-95, which I've got the special camo on. You've got the Panzer. This thing, very good light tank, very good plastic HE on it. I think is what that HE is, with over 100 penetration on it. And then of course we've got the King, the this thing, the Ravioli, the French Sherman, with 6 reverse gears. Then you've got the Super Pershing, the AMX M449. Yeah, you know, the Chieftain T-95. Got a lot of good tanks in this thing. Of course, yeah, you've got the old favourite, the IS-6, and all that. And it is a very difficult choice, because a lot of these tanks are very good tanks. And there is a lot of choice, because a lot of these tanks do play very similar. Some of them are better than others. Some of them have got different playstyle. For example, the Chieftain T-95. This thing is a very interesting tank to play. Still not particularly. It's actually not that rare now, to be fair, because they have released it a couple of times and people lapped it up because it's a Chieftain T-95. This thing is a very good tank as well. But I think I'm going to have to go with the old favourite, the Tiger II with the ladder. And I don't know if I went with this last year. I do sometimes like to try and change up what tanks are my favourite. However, the Tiger II always draws me back, just because it is a very good tank. The 105 gun, very good average pen, very good alpha damage. The armour as well, very good at side scraping, very good frontal hull as well. Unfortunately, the lower glacis is of course the weak spot, as it is on a lot of the high-tier German heavies. But yeah, very good side scraping, 80mm side armour, yeah. 150 frontal hull, 185 frontal turret. The gun, very accurate, makes it a very good sniper tank. Yeah, it's just able to hold the advance, you know, push up against things, and just take them out with ease and efficiency. And yeah, it's just very good armour, very good at side scraping. I mean, we all know about the Tiger II by now. There's not much else that can be said about it that's new or a revelation to anyone. And yeah, it's just a very good tank. Obviously, there are some honourable mentions. The Chieftain, of course, with that 88 frontal hull. Is it 88? 85 frontal hull, but still sloped. The 254 frontal turret. The 90mm gun, which is actually a very good gun. Obviously, the big weak spot being the machine gun pulls up there. I mean, the Rev Alois as well. Cheeks and the Cupola are also the problem. However, overall, still very strong frontal armour, very strong 100mm gun. Not too bad of a tank either. It's sort of like a French Tiger II. And yeah, but overall, I mean, you know, even though the experimental has also got 191 front, very strong turret. I mean, that gun is also a monster, but still, I think the Tiger II gets the good blend of the gun and armour. The gun is very good. The armour is also not too bad as well. And overall, yeah, it's just a very good tank. Now we come to Tier 9. And this has got one of my least amounts of tanks in it, I think. Tier 10 and Tier 1, I think, have got the same number of tanks, but this has got to be the tier with the second least amount of tanks in it. And there are some good tanks in this. Of course, the VK4502B, my first ever Tier 9 tank, sitting here proudly. Then you've got the E75, just the bigger brother to the Tiger II, and then you've got the Testudo, and then, of course, the KpfPz 70. Remember when rockets were a thing? Everyone says as they get NARM-style flashbacks to the to the M41 with, yeah, artillery-guided rockets. And yeah, can also be a bit of a difficult tank, or a bit of a difficult tier to choose from. Excuse me there. But yeah, overall, I've got to say, it's a choice between the last three and the first one, because they've all got some good points about them. Testudo is, of course, well, the Testudo. It's, a very good tank destroyer. This is just a bigger brother to the Tiger II. This is a very good side scraper, rear-mounted turret, makes it even better, and then this has just got the mobility and stuff. And honestly, it's very difficult for me to choose. I'm gonna have to say, it's got to be a tie between the KpfPz and the Tortoise, and that'll leave a lot of people going, huh? How can it be a toss-up? They're two very different tanks. And yes, they're two very different tanks, but they're also two very good tanks. Because the Tortoise, it may be slow, but get it into a good position, and that 120mm gun, with 259 average pen, 400 average damage, and 0.29 dispersion, is a very good gun, able to easily pinpoint enemy weaknesses and exploit them nearly every shot. With a rate of fire of, 8.74, it's not too slow of a rate of fire. In a very heavily armoured bunker, which sometimes moves at the rate of continental drift, but you get the point. It does move on occasion. And the gun is very good. It can easily shut down corridors of advance, just with shells constantly whizzing and hitting the weak points, distracting people with ease, constantly taking off their health is very good. The armour does, of course, have some weak points. I mean, it's only 228 thick at the front, but at the front it is rather sloped as well. So, whilst looking at it, the raw stats say it's not that thick for tier 9. You look at the sloping, and then you factor in the sloping all around the gun mantlet, all around here. Makes it actually not that much of a weak point, the armour. Obviously, the biggest weak point is that top machine gun, and people will obviously shoot and hit and penetrate that top machine gun port. However, if you constantly wiggle the tank, you can make it slightly more difficult, because there is actually some sloping and stuff on here, especially around the sides, which can make it slightly difficult for people to try and hit. Obviously, the sides also, side armour is 152, which is even better than the side armour of the VK4502B, and also, even better than the E75, so you can use it to side scrape around the corner, bait someone into shooting at you, and then roll around and just give them a 400 hit point present for Christmas, which will no doubt make their battle. And yeah, overall, it's a very solid tank if you can get it into a good position. Yeah, it's just a mobile bunker. Obviously, people circling it, it has got no chance of being able to fight back against it. You sort of have to hope that there's a teammate or a wall that you can use to your advantage, because otherwise you are toast. Which is kind of the opposite to the KpfPz, because the KpfPz is also a very good tank. With 120 frontal hull, 200 frontal turret. It can side scrape to an extent, but I wouldn't rely on it. The armour itself is nothing too spectacular, but that gun is the bane of many people's existence. 240 average damage with APCR ammo, 560 average damage, and that is misleading, because you can do 400 damage, you can do 700 damage. It really is just a gamble as to what the RNG gods want to give you, but it does have very good dispersion. HE has got 90 average pen with 640 average damage. The gun does about 4 rounds per minute, which is it's not particularly great. It's about a 13-14 second reload for a big old 150 here. But even so, the gun and the armour doesn't particularly matter that much, because it is a very mobile heavy tank. It is a main battle tank, and that means it's more sort of like a medium heavy. It's a slightly slow and fat medium, but it's not that fat and it's not that slow compared to other medium tanks. 50 tons, but with a 40 kilometers per hour top speed, 36 degrees per second hull traverse. The turret traverse isn't that great. However, it's still a pretty fun tank to play. It also looks pretty good from the back. It looks like you're driving an Abrams, which I'm sure will make a lot of Americans happy to no end. But yeah, overall, it's just a pretty good tank. Yeah, the gun is a bit odd, and they were apparently going to give it rockets in place of HE due to the rocket event, but they never actually ended up doing that. For better or worse, we'll have to see. Probably for the best, because no one liked rockets. They were pretty fun, but when you had people doing orbital strikes on you from across the map as artillery, yeah, it's a bit broken. And now we come to the final tier, which is of course tier 10, and I have only got 5 tanks in tier 10, so it shouldn't be that difficult. It is going to be a toss-up between the Mouse and the Chieftain. And honestly, they're both very good tanks. I mean, the Chieftain is of course the Chieftain, 127 frontal hull, 350 frontal turret. Yeah, 55 tons, 42 kilometers per hour top speed. I mean, 40 kilometers per hour, 40 degrees per second hull reverse. Yeah, not too bad. Very good 120, 260 average pen, nearly 8 rounds per minute, which is pretty good to be fair. 400 average damage, 0.3 accuracy, 3.1 second aim time. It is a sniping beast. It is very good. It is a very good tank. Very good armor as well. Able to bouncing shots left, right, and center. It's pretty low down. The gun itself very good. It's also rather mobile as well for a heavy tank. It's just overall a very good tank to play and to have. And of course, it's got a big old Union Jack painted on the top. And who doesn't like that with the urban camo? And then we come to the big boy, the Mouse, which is again completely different to the Chieftain in every way possible. Massive old target, big and dirty, plenty of armor everywhere, very slow, very scary. Most HP in the game. Big old 128 mounted with a 75 Comax, which doesn't work. Decent average pen, very good average damage. The accuracy as well, not too bad. Awesome firing on the move capability. Gun handling is absolutely fantastic on it, able to snap shots across the map and have them hit reliably. It's a very good gun, mounted on a very heavily armoured fortress. Got the most armour out of any tank in the game, I think. 100% protection. Very immobile, however, very scary to go up against. Very good at side scraping, very good at front scraping. Just very good at anything to do with armour and bouncing shots. Yeah, it's overall just a fantastic thing to play. It's a massive beast of a tank, and yeah, very hulking. Were I to have the Death Star, which as you can see I'm pretty close to having, were I to have the Death Star, this might be a different story, but as it is, I don't have the Death Star yet. But even so, yeah, toss up between these two. Wouldn't like to say which one I prefer more. Mouse is, of course, the Mouse. First tier 10 that I had. Very fun, very good. Plus, the camos that it gets some very good camos on it. For example, this one and the Legionary camo, which is actually a Spartan, but, you know, minor details. And then, of course, we got all of these favourites. Yeah. But overall, yeah, those are my favourite tanks at tiers 1 to 10. I'll thank you all for watching and goodbye.